This is the Regained Wellness Podcast with Jamie Logie, Episode 8, Benefits of Dark Chocolate. Hey guys, welcome back to the Regained Wellness Podcast. I'm Jamie Logie. I run regainedwellness.com, which is the website to help you take back your health, kind of the one-stop shop for all things nutrition, wellness, fitness, and if you're new to getting healthy and well and trying to get on top of your diet, you can head over to regainedwellness.com/guide, and there you can sign up for the free ebook I've had that I'll send out to you, and it'll get you signed up for the mailing list, so it'll keep you up to date with all things to do with Regained Wellness, everything I'm covering, new blogs that come out when there's new podcasts, just to keep you in the loop with everything. Today we're talking about the Dark Master, the cocoa bean. And you might be a chocoholic, something like that. You might not think there can actually be health benefits to chocolate, but when you learn about what the right kind of chocolate is, you'll see that it actually can be something that you can include in your diet. More often than not, we're talking about things you need to remove in order to get healthy. And once you get on this sort of path to health and wellness, it becomes about adding in the good things. And the more of these good things you add in, it starts to push away a lot of that garbage. And the one thing, like we're just saying, that is good if you get the right form of it is chocolate. And we're going to talk about the different types of chocolate. We're not talking about a caramel bar or a Hershey bar. We're talking about real chocolate. And kind of give you a quick little history on where chocolate comes from. And the fact that it's been a big part of people in society's lives for eons now. Going back to the Aztecs, good 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, they were grinding up cocoa beans and combining them with other ingredients to make drinks and kind of porridges and stuff like that. They would be really thick, and they basically have to drink with these kind of straws they crafted, because it was, think about it, it's like drinking oatmeal more or less, which is kind of how the earliest forms of beer were. They were these very porridgey, thick concoctions that were loaded with all sorts of different stuff, but they had to use these straws just to get right through them. Some of these ancient old recipes for these chocolate drinks are still survived, or have been found and discovered, and you can still actually recreate them today. I'll put a link to that in the show notes just to show you one of the original forms of this chocolate drink. So everything today that I'd link in will be at regainedwellness.com/008. These types of drinks they were making in these chocolatey concoctions were not going to be like a sweet hot chocolate. Like I said, they're obviously very thick. They're very foamy, very bitter, very gritty. And yeah, you're getting more or less a mouthful of junk. You're trying to work your way through it, and that's where the name cocoa itself comes from. It comes from an ancient word that meant bitter water. And kind of just sort of fast forwarding here through the spread of chocolate through the world, the Spanish were the first to share chocolate with other people, and by the 17th century, cocoa beans were starting to show up in some European ports. And not surprisingly, the French were the first to really develop a more palatable type of chocolate drink, and by 1650 chocolate was being consumed into England now. And the French, the English, the Dutch, they had all developed chocolate into a sweeter product, and even started making kind of the earliest forms of chocolate bars. No peanut butter cups yet, they're on their way. The Swiss then really developed the first milk chocolate in the 19th century, and Rodolphe Lindt developed the chocolate fondant, and most people are familiar with the Lindt chocolate and all their different varieties they have out there. And now we're talking about the varieties, that all chocolate is obviously not created equal. Like the average chocolate bar you're going to grab off the shelf, not really chocolate. It's maybe going to have trace amounts, but what you're eating is primarily sugar, corn syrup, flavorings, and whatever else they've thrown in there. When we're talking about real chocolate, and we're talking about dark chocolate, the real stuff here we're looking at is going to be 70% cacao solids, which will be on the label. That's when you're looking at the better form. Ideally, you're wanting to look for the forms that have 85 to 90%, and you can even find 99% cacao bars. And just a quick thing, you'll hear cacao, you'll hear cocoa. Cacao is the actual plant where the beans come from. And in its raw form, it's cacao. When it starts to be processed, then it becomes cocoa in whatever it's going to be, like cocoa drinks, cocoa like chocolate mixes, bars. But the raw form of chocolate or cocoa is called cacao. So just to clear all that up, it's when we're talking about this dark chocolate, it's got a distinctive taste. It's some people find it a little bitter, and it can throw you off at first if you're used to eating sugary chocolate, mocklet almost, this fake chocolate. But after a while, you can really come to appreciate the taste. And myself personally, like, I'll eat these 90% cacao chocolate bars, and to me, honestly, it's as sweet as any chocolate I've ever had. I've developed that taste and appreciated that real natural form. So I can't even honestly eat of like a fake chocolate bar now. Like, it's to me, it's a mouthful of sugar. So this is the real chocolate, and there's a lot of actual health benefits that come from it. And that's what we're going to jump into here as we're looking into the holiday season. There's a lot of chocolate all over the place. So kind of really want to show you the benefits of something that everyone treats as a snack or as an indulgence, but can actually provide you some real health benefits. Here are 5 of the best reasons to eat this dark chocolate. I remember we were talking about this minimum 70% cacao in your dark chocolate. So first thing is it's got a very high vitamin and mineral content. So dark chocolate naturally contains high levels of things like fiber, iron, magnesium, copper, manganese, potassium, zinc, and selenium. Then along with that, dark chocolate is also high in antioxidants. So people hear antioxidants all the time. In case you need to be brought up to speed, the antioxidants help to prevent free radical damage in the body, and free radicals are formed when oxygen interacts with certain molecules, and that can lead to cell oxidation, which the best way to understand is thinking kind of rust, where if you leave a car outside or any form of metal, after a while it wears down, it kind of oxidizes and it rusts. That's the kind of the best way to think of it. And so think of how a paint sealant on a car can help prevent it from rusting and decaying. That's the way antioxidants are to the body. They help prevent damage from this cell oxidation, and the cell oxidation can lead to things like premature aging, DNA damage, certain types of cancers. And we're really starting to understand that these free radicals have really contributed a lot to our detriments in health. There's some researchers in Italy that found the high antioxidant content in dark chocolate would help combat the negative effects of free radical damage in the body. And interestingly, when milk is put in, it was shown to interfere with the absorption of antioxidants. So it's even more of a reason to stay away from things like milk chocolate and focus on the real dark chocolate. Third benefit in eating dark chocolate for your health is that it can lower blood pressure. And there's some more research here coming out of Germany. And there was an 18-week study. I'll put the links for these things, like the study, up on those show notes again. This 18-week study looked at what were otherwise healthy individuals that had higher than optimal blood pressure. And small portions of dark chocolate were added into their relatively normal diet and then were seen to efficiently reduce blood pressure. So one of the big benefits there. Fourth thing is dark chocolate can help prevent cardiovascular disease. And this is, again, looking at the power of the antioxidants and coming through in the form of things called polyphenols or flavonoids. And these flavonoids are thought to have real heart protecting effects. And there's research out of Australia that showed that small daily dark chocolate consumption could potentially avert 70 non-fatal and 15 fatal cardiovascular events per 10,000 people treated over 10 years. And again, these studies pointed out using at least 70% cacao solid dark chocolate rather than milk or white chocolate. An interesting side note here is when you test the antioxidant content in flavonoids and polyphenols and things like that, there's a measurement called ORAC, which is the oxygen radical absorbance capacity. And this is basically researchers put some bad free radicals against certain foods to see how the food's antioxidants disarm them, and then that gives it its ORAC rating. So some studies with the testing showed dark chocolate to have a higher antioxidant activity than things like the acai berry or even the powerhouse blueberry, which has kind of been known as the king of antioxidants. And hopefully you can check this out if you go to the show notes again. It's said regainedwellness.com/008. I can put a link for this chart from the USDA, and it shows the breakdown for a wide variety of the foods and this high ORAC score. So to see their ability to fight free radicals. And interesting, kind of to do with the time of year here, the highest scores for antioxidant content by far are things like spices and herbs, specifically things like cloves, cinnamon, oregano. So it's interesting during the holiday time where some of these, you're not always going to have cloves or certain spices and herbs throughout the year, but they always make an appearance during the holidays, and kind of a good time to put those into your repertoire and see how you can include them in your diet, in your cooking. It's easy to add herbs in, no problem. Spices, cinnamon is a great one too. So fifth thing here, dark chocolate can help manage and lower blood sugar. And this usually surprises people because you think of chocolate as, high sugar and all that sort of thing. So people with diabetes, prediabetes, and insulin resistance are the people that have trouble controlling blood sugar levels. And a healthy diet and exercise, and specifically strength training, can help naturally lower your blood sugar. But what are some of the natural compounds in foods that can help with lowering blood sugar? And those are those polyphenols we talked about before. Among their many benefits, this is the polyphenols, among their many benefits, they are able to promote vascular health and glucose control. And with dark chocolate being near the top of that antioxidant content list, it really can play an effective part in helping keep the blood sugar under control. So again, people think of it, dark chocolate or just chocolate in general as really high sugar. But in the case of dark chocolate, it's got such a low sugar level, and it's able to help with stabilizing, glucose control and stuff like that, because it's actually more of a fat than it is a sugar. And it contains those good fats, though, like oleic acid that you find in olive oil, palmitic acid, stearic acid. And those oleic acids, like the olive oil ones, are the monounsaturated type wholesome fats. And the higher fat content, again, is what's keeping that glycemic index of the dark chocolate low. So in case you're unfamiliar with the glycemic index, it's a measure of how quickly blood sugar levels rise after eating certain foods. So more or less, foods that have this glycemic index of around 60 to 70 are considered to have a moderate effect on blood sugar levels. Foods that are 55 or less are considered low, while items that are 70 or above are considered high. Dark chocolate is around a 23, which is the bottom of the chart. So this is so low that it really doesn't cause those insulin spikes in your body. The glycemic index shows how foods that seem high because of their sugary content but contain some fat will elevate blood sugar more slowly than something that is primarily a low quality simple carbohydrate. So like obviously refined sugar, white bread, pastries, things like that shoot your blood sugar through the roof. And interesting, you might have seen these comparisons before, but it's why when we're talking how some low quality simple carbohydrates have actually a higher ability to elevate blood sugar, like where a Snickers bar you can put a few different things out on the table and say, white bread, bowl of sugar, Snickers bar, what's going to raise your blood sugar the highest? People always point to the chocolate bar, but it's lower, like say the Snickers bar specifically, where it ranks a 51 on the glycemic index, where a piece of whole wheat bread is a 71, which seems completely backwards. But when you realize that the bread is a simple refined carbohydrate and it's digested and absorbed very, very quickly to raise your blood sugar, well, the Snickers bar has things like fat and nuts and nougat and things like that that are able to release blood sugar a little more slowly. So I'm not saying to go and eat Snickers bars, but just trying to show you how certain foods have this impact on your body and how it's important to eat healthy fat. So instead of the fat and nuts that come in a Snickers bar, that's where you want to turn to those healthy fats like normal nuts, like raw nuts, like almonds, macadamia nuts, olive oil, like we mentioned before, avocado, things like that. There's a whole list of all the, like a more in-depth list of items and how they affect your blood sugar from Harvard that I can put a link up, and it's got absolutely everything so you can see where they all rank. And that won't even cost you $200,000 a year in tuition. So I'll hook you up there. So here's something that keeps popping up when you look at those studies. If you get a chance to go online and check them, even if you don't, I can tell you the thing that comes up quite a bit is the words small and moderate. These studies were only administering small and moderate doses of chocolate over the course of the studies, and you need to look at it the same way in your day-to-day life. Due to its higher fat content and calorie content of this dark chocolate, you don't want to go crazy when you eat it. And, like the less processed, the better, but at least being exposed to a real whole food, your body is a little more accustomed to dealing with that. So moderation in that sense will be key. And you're able to relieve that sweet tooth if you have it, and you're doing some good at the same time. So if you do a square or two of dark chocolate, every other day, every few days, it's going to help. If you really have that bad sweet tooth and those crazy sugar cravings, it's really going to help kind of keep those cravings at bay. And then the main thing is help provide you with a lot of those health benefits. And the amazing thing I find with dark chocolate is that it's more satisfying than, these sugary milk chocolates that you might feel you can just like never stop eating. We're talking about peanut butter cups before. Like, I don't think there's a single person who can just eat one of those. You could just pile them through. The dark chocolate, you feel a little more satisfied with a smaller portion. So when we're talking about cravings, this is kind of a good tip when you feel really overwhelmed and really want a lot of sugar. If you take a square of dark chocolate, keep it under your tongue and let it slowly melt. So if you've had dark chocolate before, you know how it's quite firm. It doesn't really melt in your fingers or hands as quick as, like a milk chocolate. So you put this dark chocolate square on your tongue, let it slowly melt. And this gradual release can really help satisfy the sugar cravings. And more often than not, people find they don't really need any more than what they just had in that one little square. So I encourage you to give that a shot if you do suffer from crazy sugar cravings at time, which happens. So hopefully I've shed some light here on the benefits that can come from dark chocolate, and that importantly, that not all chocolate is created equal. So this is a time of year where you're going to see every form of chocolate ever created pretty much. If you're listening to this later, I'm recording this on, what's today, December 15th. So we're kind of in the home stretch for Christmas here. So chocolate is aplenty. So focus on finding the dark variety of chocolate, at least 70% cacao solids. Try to get up to 90. And like I said, you'll develop that taste where you honestly won't be able to go back. If I eat 70% dark chocolate now, it's so overly sweet, whereas the first time I had it, it felt like the most bitter thing in the world. But your taste buds will get accustomed and you'll grow used to this new form of real whole food chocolate. So that's everything from me today. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed. If you did like this, please feel free to share, pass it on. If you could do me a favor and leave a review on iTunes, it really helps to promote the show. At the moment, I'm still up in that top 10 on the new noteworthy sections on iTunes under the fitness and nutrition category, which is a very tough category, as well as the foods category, which is under the arts section in the iTunes sort of podcast directory. So leaving a review just helps bump it up, keeps it up there, and more people are able to check it out, listen to it. So you can also, if you're looking for more information on things like dark chocolate, other nutrition topics, head over to regainedwellness.com. You'll see all my articles there. You'll see guides I have up, links to the different podcast shows, the different blog posts. You can check me on Facebook, which is facebook.com/regainedwellness. And same thing, I'll put links up there to stuff I'm putting on the website, but also like links to all sorts of different nutrition topics that you might find interesting, or studies. Same thing with Twitter. I can put out little quick tweets on quick little nutrition tips to keep you going, and the handle is @regainedwellness. And feel free to email as well. I like to check that if anyone has questions they want to see covered here, topics I could cover as well. You can email. The address is info@regainedwellness.com. So thanks for listening. Remember, with all your health goals, your nutrition goals, your wellness goals, the idea is just to keep one foot in front of the other, keep moving forward, and remember, progress, not perfection. See you next time.